I specialize in sex addiction, so a lot of the men that I deal with are addicted to sex or have sexual compulsive behavior. In the United States, 70 million are on porn sites every
70 million?
What do you think is the number one killer of men?
I did a lot of stupid shit. I stole. I was an addict. I did a lot of drugs. I sold drugs.
A lot of people don't want you to change.
Oh, Jesus.
Right?
Yes.
Is this serving your relationship with your partner? Is it serving your relationship with you? Is it aligned with your value system and you keep engaging in behaviors that are not aligned with your value system and then you feel like crap?
So porn, in your opinion, porn has nothing to do with sex?
Nope.
This is the Nico Lagan Show. Warning. This show contains explicit content. Listener discretion is advised. Real, raw, and shooting you straight. This is the Nico Lagan Show. And now your host, Nico.
Welcome to the Nico Lagan Show. I have the pleasure to be with my first psychiatrist / social worker / somebody that's going to tell me that there's something really wrong with me. Troy Love. What's going on, man?
Good. How are you, man? I'm excited.
I'm good. Have you ever been told that your name sounds like a porn name?
I have been told that many times.
Because that's exactly what it's like. Hey, I've heard you needed milk. What's going on?
Many times.
But is that your real name? Is that your
really
stage name? I mean, your professional
No,
name?
that really is my name.
Wow. Your parents had a sense of humor.
Well, I was adopted. And I
were you?
Adopted into a family with the last name Love. So the universe has a sense of humor. I was also born on Valentine's Day. So
shut up.
I'm not kidding.
You were born on Valentine's Day, adopted by a family by the last name of Love.
Yep.
The universe, God, nature, however you want to call it, has a sense of humor.
Absolutely.
How was it? This is interesting. I didn't know this. How was it to, do you think that it affected your life to be adopted? Did you know from the get-go? Like, how did that work?
I did know from the get-go. And yes, it absolutely has affected my life.
Feeling of abandonship, I guess?
Yep.
Oh, who's the psychologist now?
So that is one of the things I do as a therapist is talk about attachment wounds, and abandonment is one of those. And absolutely, that was one of them that I dealt with a lot.
How'd you deal with it? Like, how did you make peace with the fact that, for lack of a better term, your parents didn't want you? Like, as bad as it sounds bad, but
that was the question. Why did you give me up for adoption? I did meet my birth mother when I was 38, and she was able to explain it. And she always wanted me, but she also wanted a better life for me than she was able to provide for her. And so that's why she made the choice she did.
Does that feel any better to have that type of explanation, or is it kind of a cop-out solution?
I never felt resentful for being adopted.
Okay.
In fact, I thought it was pretty cool. Set me to be a little bit unique from other people, but it was always just a question. So she answered the question. There was no animosity or anger towards her ever. And I'm grateful for the experience I had.
You know, that's great, because too many men out there are raised without fathers, or raised without proper male figure. And I know for myself, my dad left when I was 14, and I barely had contact with him over the next 15 years until he died. So I didn't really have a strong male influence. And so I understand how it can affect you, but I also never really had, I don't have any resentment towards him. I wish I could have talked to him before he died just to say, why'd you do it?
Yeah.
But it's not something I don't have any resentment towards him. It has driven me as an individual. If you look at what I do now, is because of him. The fact that he left is the reason why I know that strong men are needed. Boys need men in their life in order to become men.
That's exactly why she made the choice she did, because my birth father was not in any position to be a part of my life at that time, and she did not want me to grow up without a dad.
See, good for her. Because that must have... You know what? Say what you will. Women that give I cannot imagine that there's one woman that gave her child to adoption that actually felt great about it.
Right.
And I assume, I don't know. I've never had to do it myself, though.
Well, every Valentine's Day, she would look out the window and just kind of wonder where I was and hoped that I was doing okay and offer prayers and blessings for me. I can't imagine how challenging of a decision that was for her, but she did it because she loved me.
See, that's kind of I don't want to say that it's a cool answer, but at least it's something.
Mm-hmm.
So you've never met your birth father?
Oh, I have.
And was she right?
Yes.
So looking back, you kind of dodged a bullet
Mm-hmm.
on that one?
Absolutely.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you think that it has that much of an aspect, that much of an impact on a young man not to have a man around? Like on a boy or a young man not to have a strong male figure in their life?
Absolutely. You look at society and how many boys do not have a healthy male figure in their life, and then you look at how many people are addicted. You look at the level of violence that's happening in this country. You look at how much depression, how many men are in the legal system, how many men are full, how many men in the prisons did not have a father who helped them learn what it meant to actually be a man. And I think that's one of the major problems in our society.
Because you look at it too, and it's not because a male is present that he's a good man either.
Right.
Because a lot of the men that are around are trying to be friends with their kids. See, that's another thing that blows my mind. I don't have any kids at the moment, at least, but I've been around parents through martial arts enough to know that it is important the way you treat your kids. Like, they need an authority figure. They don't need a friend.
Right.
Who cares if they love you or not? Like, at this point, this is not what's important. You have to give them what you know as an adult is better, or what's best for them, not what's best for you.
I think it could be compensation for maybe being raised with maybe over authoritative dads.
Yep.
And so they've gone the complete other way. And so there needs to be a balance.
Yeah, and it would make sense because if you look at history, you look at baby boomers that were born to parents, especially men that just came back from the war. Mm-hmm. So women had to leave the household in order to continue the war effort to produce the products that men before the Second World War were producing. And then when those men came back after 1945, they were fucked. Like, men, like, we're not talking about going. I have tremendous respect for the veterans. Like, so much respect. We undervalue those men, and it hurts my heart. But those men came back fucked. Like, a lot of them, because we're not talking about making a decision to go defend your country in Iraq, for example, because it's a decision that you took. Right. Now you're being drafted. You're like, you do not have a choice. Let's go.
Right.
And those
Vietnam
guys
too.
Huh?
And Vietnam.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's why you look at the statistics of PTSD from the Second World War and Vietnam, and you look at the ones that the guys are in Iraq or they went to Bosnia. There are barely any PTSD compared to the regular people. But you look at where people were drafted, it's a complete different, because you have people from all walks of life. It's not just a special type of individual. And those guys came back. Were they the best of fathers? Probably not.
Well, and you think about the men who came back from World War II, they were celebrated and admired. The men who came back from Vietnam were despised, spit upon, shamed.
It's amazing the way the expression that says that you love a warrior until they come back home. Mm-hmm. All nations needs warriors, but they don't want to accept them back in society for what they've done after. So they've done what they've done for you, and they will, some of them, ruin their psychology of themselves, but yet you don't accept them back. You mistreat them and you treat them like garbage, but yet they did what they did as a protector, as one of the duty of a good man. They did it selflessly, and then you hate them for it.
Right.
It's amazing. That blows my mind.
It doesn't make sense to me either.
What do you think about toxic masculinity? We were talking about this before we started recording, and to me, I'm just curious, like, as a social worker, how much sense does that make to you? Like, you know what it is, and we all know what toxic masculinity is. Well, what it's supposed to mean.
Well, to me, it's a label.
Oh, yeah.
It's not an accurate description of seeing the whole person, the whole being, and and it gives, whenever we put a label on somebody, it gives us permission to treat them less than human and not feel guilty about it.
Yep.
And so if we can put labels on men, if we can put labels on women, they become an object, and then we can treat them badly and not have to take ownership for it because they're just an object of what does that matter? And to me, that's not seeing the world the way it actually is.
Because to me, this is what you look at the traits, like let's say of those men that came back from 1945, and you look at what they describe as toxic masculinity, they align. And ever since then, it seems like, as you were saying, parents now don't want to raise their kids the way their grandparents raised their parents.
Right.
Because you look, my parents were baby boomers. My mother let me do whatever I wanted. When I was a teen, she just gave up. She's just, you know what, he's too hard to handle. I don't have a strong man in my life. Whatever. Just do whatever it is that you want to do at this point. She just gave up. Instead of being an authority figure and own to the fact that I needed a strong man, she just gave up. And to this day, my mother is how she is. That is how she is as a human being. She doesn't take responsibility for her actions, and she gives up.
What's your relationship like with her now?
Terrible. I don't have a relationship with my mother. I don't have a relationship with my sister.
Yeah.
You know, so Johnny that introduced us also introduced me to his pastor. So I went to, Josie and I go to church every now and then. We're not religious person per se, but we're extremely spiritual. And I like non-denominational churches where the preachers are just there to talk about what's beautiful about the Bible and how it transcribes into life today. I love that. They're not pushy. They don't talk, and they're mostly maintaining a community around a shared faith. They don't tell you that you need the church in order to speak to God. I speak to God every day. I have a very special relationship with God myself. I don't need a third party to tell me how it should and shouldn't be. So I really appreciated that he put me in touch with him. But, you know, we were talking about this. We stayed for a good half an hour after the service because have you met him? He's a brilliant man.
He is.
Very research guy, very cool dude. Does not look like a preacher at all. Has the size of a ring. Did you see the size of his pinky ring? All I could think is, man, that would leave a mark if he smacked somebody with this. But we had a conversation. I had a long conversation with him because he was explaining that he doesn't have a relationship with his father. Well, he does have a relationship with his father, but because he maintains it. Because he approaches it in a way where he says, I understand the type of man that he is. So he's probably a guy that went to Vietnam. If you look at his father, it's probably he was saying he was around 80. So it's probably exactly that type of guy. He's a violent man. And he's not by what he's saying, he's not a very controlled man. He's just a violent man. But he's learned over the years to say, you know what, I cannot be 100% upfront with him. I cannot tell him my reality. I cannot tell him my truth because he cannot handle it. So that made me think, because with my mother, last time I saw her was about 9 months ago, Josie, give or take. It's before we left Canada. So maybe a couple of months before we left Canada, and we left about 7.5 months ago. And I told her, by recommendation of my girlfriend, I told her you see the face she's making. She's like, whoops, maybe I shouldn't have said. Well, no, because I chose to do it. At the end of the day, she did not force me to do anything. I just listened to her, and that was my choice. And I told her for the first time in my life how I actually felt. Because you look, I've done a lot of stupid shit when I was younger. And my mom's always, she stopped. My image in her eyes and my sister's eyes stopped when I was 20. So at the end of all my shit, they never see me as the guy that went from being a high school dropout at 15, of going back to school without studying, doing an equivalency for my high school, and having extremely high average just off of my brains. They don't understand that I felt that the education system made me feel stupid when I was in school, because it told me not, because I didn't conform. I didn't conform. I didn't fit in that low box. Yep. I wasn't intelligent, but yet look at me today. I will say this with all the cockiness in the world. I'm smarter than 99.9% of people you'll meet. I'm somebody that eats information, that is always reading, that's always researching. But I was meant to feel like an idiot because I did not fit into that box. So I did a lot of stupid shit. I stole. I was an addict. I did a lot of drugs. I sold drugs. But yet my family never stopped seeing me like this. Yet I was a sales engineer. I was the only one in my team that was not an engineer, yet I made the same money that they did. And how did I get, I only had like, I did my high school equivalency. I did a technical diploma to fix computers. Within 7 years, I went from doing 20 grand to doing above 100 grand. That's wow. within the span of about 5 years. When I stopped working corporate world 7 years ago, I couldn't really go. I could have chose to go to another company and make 300, 400, 500 grand a year. But I'm like, you know what? That's not me anymore. But my family sees me as the guy when I was 20 years old. Mm. They don't see me for the guy that has stepped into a ring and fought as a fighter, that's developed a career that made more money than both of them combined. Mm. They don't see me as the guy that made more money than than my mother's husband, which one of the greatest men I've ever met. They don't understand that I've been living my life the way I've always lived my life, the way I wanted to live it. But the day I told her how I felt, won't talk to me anymore. She didn't even call me for my birthday last month. She sent me a text at like 3:00 in the afternoon. Wow. So this is what I find interesting. So this is man, what a fucking segue. This is my relationship with my family. But is it my fault or not? Is it up to me to maintain that relationship or not? Is it worth it or not? I don't know. I don't have those answers. It's something I think about every now and then. But I don't know, is it worth it or not to have that type of relationship? To me, that sounds toxic as hell. And I'm like, I'm living my life right now. I'm doing something that people don't have the balls to do. So who's wrong in this situation? Or does it need to be right or wrong?
Those are profound questions.
Those are the only type of questions I've asked myself. Mm. But this is why I do what I do. This is exactly why I'll be the first one to say, unlike others out there, that if your life sucks, it's your fucking fault. If you weren't raised by a strong father, you know what? I get it. I was there too. But it's your fucking fault for not, we are all born weak. But staying is a choice. Mm-hmm. That's up to you.
Right.
Do you see that a lot in the people that you talk to? Like if we talk more specifically about men, because there's a myth out there that men don't talk about their problems, but is that something, you know what? Let's start there. Do men approach you as a social worker? Do you speak to men?
I do. There's a lot of shame for them. There's a lot of fear for them in being open and vulnerable because we've been culturalized that you're not supposed to do that. So it's not that they don't. We've been culturalized that you're not supposed to do that. You're not supposed to be emotional. You're not supposed to talk about your emotions. You're supposed to be this certain way. And if you don't fit the norm, then there's something wrong with you. So I love working with men, especially the ones who are willing to be open because the light inside of them is amazing and their courage and their strength is amazing. And for so many of them, they've been walking around thinking, I'm not man enough. I don't have what it takes. I can't do this. And when they start to change that belief system, it's one of the most profoundly amazing parts of my job.
Do you think that, because to me, I hear what they're saying, but they never understood what it actually meant. Because I hear that all the time, that men are told, and it's always by women, funny enough, it's always women that tell me this, that men are meant to feel. Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with you. But if we assume that a masculine man is tempered, he controls his emotion and does not let his emotion run him, automatically people think I'm saying that you need to be a stone statue and never show, but that's not what it means at all. No. Like if I'm in a relationship with a woman, my girlfriend is very feminine. What does that mean? Her emotion runs her. Yeah. That's what estrogen does. Mm-hmm. Your estrogen makes you very emotional and testosterone makes you very aggressive. This is what it is. But I've learned over the years not to kill people. I've learned over the years not to hurt people. No, but it is a daily battle. Every day I try to be less and less aggressive. Every day is conscious. I'm always working on this.
Well, I bet that martial arts has helped you with that.
It's not just helped me. This is where my journey started. Hitting the gym and martial arts. I was just talking about this morning, how I've never told that story and I will soon, but in my teens, I was left to myself to figure out what it was to be a man. So I did all the dumb shit that you can think of. In my 20s, I went back to school and I started developing my body. I started hitting the gym. I was 145 pounds soaking wet, 140 pounds back then. I'm about 206 right now. So
I can relate to that. Except I don't have the muscle. I was 130 when I
there you go.
You know.
But the day I started developing, you know, the day that you start imagining a certain type of body that you want, and then you start creating it. Because right now, your body as a man is about the only thing you can't buy.
That's right.
I cannot buy my shape. It's either I do the work or I don't.
Yep.
And it shows it right away, right? But once you start developing your body, then I discovered martial art. Both of them started developing my mind. I became extremely strong physically. I realized that I'm not made of glass, and this is an eye opener. And then in my 30s, I realized my mind was strong. So I could develop my mind, but I've never stopped developing my body, because those are all things that we don't talk about. And I don't know for you, but do you? Because, you know, I'm not a fan of Jim Carrey. I think he's an asshole, but he did say that he believes that depression is real. But if you're not exercising, you're not eating well, you're not surrounding yourself by positive people, you're not going outside and sitting in the sun, going in nature, you're not giving yourself a chance. Is that through your work? Do you recommend people to start eating better, to start going to the gym, to start treating themselves with the respect that they would give to their fucking cars, but they don't give to themselves?
Absolutely. It's a holistic thing.
Yeah.
Meditation, eating right, getting out in the sun, taking care of your body, exercising. That's all part of taking care of this whole thing.
So you do believe in the holistic view?
Absolutely.
Because this, to me, we live in a society that is extremely specialized. You look everywhere, they're all silos. Like the doctors will give you pill because you have high blood pressure, or you have diabetes, but he's not going to tell you that you should start exercising. You should start, maybe he's going to send you to psychologists because there's something, he's going to give you more pills, but yet he doesn't realize that maybe you don't eat well, maybe you don't exercise. So all of those things are all connected, like your mind, body, and soul is all connected, but we're so used to just, oh, that guy's a specialist, he knows what he's talking about. That guy's a specialist, he knows what he's talking about. But then you say the word holistic, people think you're wearing like brown pants and I'm going to try to make you drink some weird fucking tea and somehow that's going to fix your problem. But holistic simply means that you're seeing it as a whole.
Right.
That's it. That's the definition of a holistic view, is just to say I'm looking at it from all the aspects that your body, your mind, and your soul.
We need that.
So you do approach it in a holistic
Absolutely.
view. And what do you have to explain it to you call them clients, I guess? Do you explain it to your clients that you're going to take a more holistic view, that everything is interconnected?
Right. I tell them right off the bat that I don't like labels.
Yep.
So I don't want to say you're depressed or you have anxiety. Those are symptoms of what's going on in yourself. And that's caused by all kinds of things, the way that we eat, the way that we live, the way that we interact, the stories we believe about ourselves. So if we can look at it from a complete whole dynamic, we can change that. But a lot of people don't want you to change.
Oh, Jesus.
Right?
Yes.
So I'm working really hard on changing me, and then, you know, I'm shamed or made fun of or humiliated or whatever. They want me to stay the way that I am so they can continue to live the way they are. And we have to say, well, too bad, I'm going to do it anyway, because I need to do that for me.
Do you recommend people to manage the people they have in their inner circle? Like to say that, and this goes back to your question about my family. I do not see a difference. If you're my friend, if you're somebody I work with, if you're my family, if you bring drama to my life, you're done. I don't keep you around. I'll stay alone if I have to. I don't care. I'd rather not have any contact with people than having contact with those people that are just drama, that it's all negativity. So do you talk to your clients about removing people from their life that it's better for them, or you don't go that extreme?
What I try to help them connect with is their light. And I say, look, you have some really amazing core truths about yourself that you ignore. And when you start to connect with you're enough and that you matter and that you're worthy of love and belonging, that will guide you in making decisions, which may be this person is blocking my light, and so you got to go. I don't tell you need to get rid of this person. I try to help you connect with you, and then you make that decision for what's best for you, and helping them connect with their truth, their light will guide them to say, this person's not serving me anymore. They gotta go.
Tell me why you use the word serving. I'm such a fan of that word, but we don't use it enough. What do you mean by serving?
It's not supporting me in me being my best self. It's not empowering me to make the best decisions for me and the people that I love. And so because of that, if it's not serving me, it's got to go. Just like if this, like food, like I've come to realize that flour does not serve me. I love pizza, but it does not serve me.
Who doesn't?
Right. And I can tell the more that I've started to be in tune with my body, what it does every time I eat it. And I was like, it's got to go. And it's hard, but it's hard to say, but it's got to go because it is not serving me. It's killing me. So that's why I use that word.
I like it because to me, serving is more, it's almost religious. Mm-hmm. It has like, it's better. It has more impact than saying it's not good for me. Mm-hmm. It's not serving me. Yeah. I don't know why. I just love the word. How many of your clients stop seeing you because they don't like what they hear? Does that happen?
I don't know. I mean, I do have people who stop seeing me. Sometimes they'll come back later and they'll tell me that they thought they were fine. My job is not to try and keep you in therapy for the rest of your life. That's a really lousy therapist who wants you to stay in therapy for the rest of the
complete opposite. Yeah.
Right. I want you to go. So,
have you heard that? Any clients of Troy, he doesn't want you there. Just go. That's basically what he's saying. His job, he's like the McDonald's of social workers. Like, hey, is that what you guys are hearing?
No, I want you to be healthy and not be dependent on somebody. But so a lot of times they'll just stop coming, and then I'll have some people come back and they'll say, I thought it was good, but then I realized I had some more to learn, so I wanted to come back. There are some people that say, hey, I think I've learned what I got to learn, and they go, and I'm like, yeah, and we celebrate and have a party. So, but I've never had anybody leave. I have never had anybody tell me. It may be why, but they've never told me, hey, I don't like this message, so I'm out. But that's their right. They can choose to do that if they want to.
Would you be the asshole that people need?
Do you mean like, do I get in their face and?
Well, I'm an asshole. Like,
well, you have a different energy than I do.
Yeah, ain't that the truth? But I am the asshole that most people need in their lives. And I have two guys in my life that are a fucking asshole. They don't care about hurting my feelings. If I'm doing something I shouldn't be doing, I'm not concentrating on the right stuff, one of them will basically call me an idiot, and the other one will just say, are you sure this is what you should be doing?
I'm more that second guy.
Yeah, so you're more like Warren. Hey, Warren, if you're listening to this. But
I still call it out. But, we need people who have your energy in
it's okay, assholes. You can say it. You're not going to hurt my feelings. I fucking know what I am.
Okay, we need assholes in our lives, okay?
I just wanted you to say asshole. That's all it is.
We need those people. We also need people like me who are like, okay, I want you to figure this out. I don't think this is serving you, man, but I am not going to tell you how to live your life. So we need both. We need both energies.
I agree. But I think most people don't have. To me, it takes an asshole at the beginning, and then it takes a guy like you to kind of go through what needs to do the work, as I like to say. You need a guy that's going to kind of smack you in the back of the head and, hey, asshole, this doesn't work this way.
Yeah.
If your life sucks, fuck off. It's your fault. And then once they start looking at the mirror and say, you know what, I think he's right. I am dictating the life that I'm living. Then they can find a guy like you to say, okay, buddy, let's see what you're doing wrong. So I think we're both needed. High five.
All right.
Nice. Yes, we high fived. To me, is just simple facts. I don't know why guys are ashamed to talk about this, because I've never heard somebody say that men shouldn't talk about this. It's just the message is always along the lines of know when and where it is appropriate. Because breakdown at work and starting to cry as a man, to me, that's not okay. It's not okay for a woman either, but I'm not talking to women, I'm talking to men. I think you need to be more controlled in that. I think you need to know that putting all your emotions on the table for everybody to fuck with you is also not smart. You need to pick and choose who you talk to. And I think this is by what you're saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, but that's what your use is. Like, as a social worker, most of those men don't have somebody to talk to.
No.
Or there's nobody in their life that they feel comfortable speaking about this, so they look for somebody like you.
What do you think is the number one killer of men?
Retirement. Men have men will live longer if they have a purpose.
The studies show that the number one killer of men is isolation.
Really?
And most men don't reach out to other men. They don't have connection. So I agree with you that they need to not like fall apart at work and all those kind of things, but they don't share that with anybody. And they just keep it all inside, and then they die of heart attacks and they die of strokes and those kind of things. So I believe that you're right. There needs to be a place, like you were talking earlier about, after you've been working out with the kid in martial arts, and then they open up to you, and you've created a space for that to happen, and most men don't have a space for that to happen.
But this is also why I say that every man out there should work out. Every man out there should do martial arts. Every man out there should... You know, I started a group. It's unfortunate that I don't have as much time as I wish I put in it, but I'm working on it right now to free up sometimes to do it. But one of my goals is to start I have a small Facebook group which private, is just men. And every day I ask questions about stuff that men don't normally talk about. Very manly stuff, but it's about just opening up a dialogue. But my goal is to do something like every Monday or so, have open like a Teams meeting and just have kind of a round table. Whoever shows up, it's your first time, tell us what your name is, why are you here, what's your expectations, what do you expect out of this? And then I set the table and I just mediate to make sure that everybody has a chance to speak, but no agenda per se, just a place where strong men, which I vet every single person. I want a specific type of man. I want really manly men that are similar to me, but that don't have that resource that they can speak to. And hopefully that group gets big enough where people from the same city can start doing the same in person. You know, like Fight Club?
Yeah.
I want to do some Fight Clubs everywhere where guys can go. You know, in Montreal before COVID, my buddy and I had started something that we called La Pléiade, which is a French word, but we used it to bring men together. Him and I would set up in bars. We're big fan of cigars, so we go to cigar bars and we'd be 10, 15 of us, round table, we just talk, just dudes. We're just men, married, kids, not married, 40-year-old, who cares? But whatever men wanted to show up, we take them. Sometimes we were 5, sometimes we were 15. But really just an outlet for men.
I think men are craving that. About 2 years ago, I started a Zoom meeting for men who are dealing with sexual addiction. And it started out with 5 men pretty much every Friday morning. And now we're up to 50. And
50 as in 50.
50.
Can you plug it in? Like just anybody can join?
Any man can join.
Yeah.
It's free. And they open up and they share and they have a place to go. And I think men need places like that.
Can you give what it is? Like, can you?
Yeah,
that's
so
what I mean. Like, shoot it out.
If you go to sexandrelationshiphealing.com, they click on the link for drop-in groups, and you scroll down to Friday, because they have several for all kinds of different things. But on Friday mornings, 9 a.m. Pacific time, it's my group that I run, and it's free. Any man who can join us.
Well, that's awesome, because I do agree with you. I do think that men need it. They might not know that they need it. And I'm not sure how to approach it. There's a few things, the more that I am in that masculinity movement, I find it hard to approach certain subjects while getting traction with it. I don't know how, like this is one of them. How do you approach mental aspect of men? Because it's not a weakness. Like to me, being able to have those groups is just a support group. Like my buddy, my mentor plays rugby. He's been playing rugby for probably 40 years. He's 65 years old, still have a six-pack, and he's a monster.
That's awesome.
One of the most successful men I've ever met, one of the smartest men I've ever met. He's just, and Josie is just agreeing with me because we spent 2 months with him in Virginia. He's one of the best men I've ever met. And I wouldn't be surprised if he actually speaks a lot about his emotions when it comes to that. But he's a very manly man. And yet, every time we speak, he's like, I love you, brother. This was fucked up to me. Like, this is a very fucking straight. It still catches me like, I love you too, bro. But it's kind of fucking weird. But it shouldn't be.
What's weird about that for you?
Having another man tell me they love me. My own father abandoned me when I was a child. So there's no, for sure that takes, like psychologically or just unconsciously, that left a mark. As much as today, I'm like, my best friend does the same thing. Damien, we say, I love you, bro. Like we say that all the time and it's fine.
So I'm the guy on the other side who says I love you.
Yeah.
And there's fear inside of me of like, dude, what are they going to think? Are they going to like be weirded out if I tell this man that I love him? But I do. And so I've had to lean into the courage of just saying it anyway. Yeah. And then maybe they're uncomfortable with it, but it's my way of saying, dude, I really do love you. I'm so grateful that you're part of my life.
You know, I say that all the time. Because I get up like 2 o'clock in the morning and I'm up way before everybody. So I spend a lot of time in my head. I write a lot. And 2 weeks ago, that's exactly what happened. I'm writing a blog about being grateful. I texted my mentor, I texted my best friend, I texted 2 guys that I do marketing with, but never met in real life, but we talk multiple times a day for the past 6 months. So I feel they're my bros. I texted Josie. And I'm just like, just wanted you to know I'm grateful. Fucking love you. And I say that to all my guys. Like I have to every now and then. I get the feeling I'm supposed to do it, so I just do it. Because see, this is the other thing. Who have you ever met somebody that you told them you were grateful for them and they got pissed off? Like, no, never. They might not admit to it right now in the moment that they needed to hear it, but how many times have people told me just a video about gratefulness and the guys I don't even know those guys are like, bro, this is exactly what I needed. Thank you. Thanks for posting that video just because that's what I needed to hear today.
Well, I think that's the beauty of men, because you were talking about mental illness and those kind of things. The beauty of putting men together and they talk about, man, I really lost my temper and I yelled at my kids and I feel like shit about that. Or, I've really been battling depression. And there's 3 other guys that say, me too. And all of a sudden, I don't feel so alone. Yep. I don't feel like I'm the dirt bag that can't get his shit together. It's like, whoa, there's other men and you look like an amazing dude and you're struggling with that too. Wow. And it brings men together and we don't do that anymore.
And I think the part I'm trying to play is masculine looking men. This is why I look the way I do. I show to people that you can look the way I do and still be in touch with that side of you, because it's okay. It's controlled. I don't do this in public. I don't lose my shit for no fucking reason, because I've worked for a long time to not to. But when it comes to my girlfriend, she knows the type of man that I am. There's no there's no lying. I'm not preventing from being the way I am with her. It's behind closed doors, it's between you and I, but it's the same thing with men. Like, what's wrong behind closed doors to have guys just be guys? Like, and most of those guys are martial artists that I'm talking about, so they're used to male contact. They're not, to them, for most people, it's very strange to be on top of another man, but yet it's extremely competitive. What we do is extremely, extremely competitive. We develop such great relationship because of that physical contact. You don't realize it. Like all my friends out there that do martial art, bro, you like hugging sweaty men. It's okay. But it does create.
Well, it's really interesting. If you look at pictures when they started having cameras from the early 1900s until about World War II, and you saw men together, they had their arms around each other, they were touching each other, and then something happened that was like you can't touch somebody. You can't touch another man. The only contact that you have with another man is through sports.
Yeah.
That's the only way. And there's
or else it's gay.
Right. And so there's this fear, and yet we crave it. And so
We crave physical contact.
absolutely.
Yeah, and non-sexual physical contact
Right.
too. Like in NLP, if there's one thing I've learned is that make contact with somebody.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to know if you're aligned, touch them.
Yeah.
Just touch their shoulders, grab their hand, like just shake their hand. You can say right away if you guys are in sync or not.
Right.
But why do you think that is? Why do you think that you look at Muslim countries, which are extremely homophobe? They hold hands. Dudes will hold hands, and that's okay. Or they kiss. That's true, Josie. They will kiss on the cheek. And this is not gay at all. Like, they're fucking against being gays. Like, they hang gays over there. But yet, male contact is okay.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think we have we're so repulsed? Because we are. Like,
Is it like that in Canada too?
yeah, there's not a lot of difference between Canada and here. We're just a bit crazier on the communist scale. Like, we're more closer to the communists than you guys are. But it's leaking through, bro. If you guys don't do anything, it's going to come here too.
I don't know. I think it has to do with the culture, and they've been ingrained in that culture for thousands and thousands of years. And the United States and Canada, we're fairly new countries,
Yeah.
and so we haven't, and our culture has evolved rather quickly.
Yep. Yeah, it's a good question because I've been doing a lot of research on the agoge from the agoge is the rites of passage from boyhood to manhood by the Spartans. So I'm very intrigued. Like, they took it to an extreme, obviously, but the mythology behind it is absolutely incredible. But what most men don't know is that Spartans were gay. Like, they were bisexual, sorry.
Right.
Like, there was a saying in Greece, the same saying was true of the Roman, at their peak of their empire. Women are for children and men are for fun. Do you know that Spartans and in Greece, they would encourage men to have sexual relationship with each other? Do you know why? It's fucking brilliant when you think about it. Because think about this. You're on the battlefield. You're not defending a friend. You're defending a lover. But we're talking about some of the manliest fucking dudes that ever lived. Like, you look warrior type, arguably Spartans are the toughest motherfuckers that lived out there.
Right.
But yet they had sexual relationship with each other.
Yeah.
It's weird how this is today we consider, and I'm not saying that dudes should stop fucking each other. That's not what I'm saying. But it's just we have such a disconnect between what we relate at we see those guys as very strong individual, but yet you'll never talk about that aspect, about the fact that a lot of them, if not all of them, were bisexual. They had, like, the mentoree relationship often had a sexual component to it, but that we don't talk about that. So it's intriguing. I haven't done enough research to know why we don't talk about it.
Well, it would get banned.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Everything gets banned nowadays.
Yeah. And I know most of my stuff does, but
Yeah, you told me that you get fired from Facebook all the time.
I get shadow banned. I get shadow banned all the time. I can see it right away. I'll get hundreds of thousands of views on some videos, and then one day I'm at like 250 views, and it stays like that for 3 weeks. Like, mathematically, it's impossible. So it is control, but hey, it is what it is. Fuck you, Facebook. Fuck Facebook. Fuck Instagram. Fuck TikTok. Fuck YouTube. But it is what it is. Those are the tools that we have.
Evils, right?
It's when you start reading about history, if you read, I was just writing about this morning, The Prince by Niccolo Machiavelli. Most people don't know what that is. It's a book that was written about 400 years ago by an Italian. It's an educated man that sent a letter to his king, because back then they had like 7 or 8 different kingdoms within Italy. And he was showing his king, which was the weakest of them all, to say how he could become the strongest. And it's all the tactics that you see that are described in his book today have been used for hundreds of years. Like, you look at the tactics that governments use, like right now, divide and conquer. This is what's going on right now. We think that political left and political right, there's that much difference. But they don't give a fuck. They just polarize each side.
That's right.
So that they're fighting against each other and they don't care about what else is going on. But those are all things that once you start looking up history, you realize that we've been lied to. So the information is so controlled. If you don't do your own research,
right? Most people don't.
No, of course it's too hard. Like most people's opinion now are based off headlines. They don't even read the fucking article. And we're talking about a blog that takes 3 minutes to read. They only go by the title. If it says it on the internet, you know what? It has to be true.
Exactly.
We live in a fucked up world when you think about it.
It's not getting better.
No,
That's why we do the work we do, trying to change the world.
So the men that you deal with, how does that work in a relationship setting? Are most of their partners okay with it? Like, are most women, let's say that a guy's married, because that probably happens a lot, that they're married men that show up here. What's the relationship with their woman when it comes to that? Are they good with that? Do they find that weak? Are they encouraging it on the contrary? How does that normally work?
Most women really want their partners to go because they're sealed off in their relationship with their partner too.
Yeah.
They don't know how to show up in any aspect of their life. So a lot of women want their man to go so that they can learn how to show up in the relationship with them.
What's the biggest issue you see?
Well, I specialize in sex addiction, so a lot of the men that I deal with are addicted to sex or have sexual compulsive behavior. But underneath all of that, the foundation is shame. Most men are ashamed to be themselves and to own when they've made a mistake, or they keep secrets and they lie, and they can't be real with themselves or anybody else because they're afraid that if they are, they're going to be rejected, they're going to be abandoned, they're going to be hurt. And so they just shove it down. And that's underneath all of that is what I see most men struggling with. And so then they just numb it.
Would you say that in sexual addiction is porn part of this?
Absolutely.
Would you say that that's most men are addicted to porn, or what would you say out of experience is the addiction rate of porn in men?
Well, calling somebody addicted is another label that I try not. I mean, I use it as a word that people understand, but you know, in the United States, 70 million men are on the porn sites every
70 million.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Are they all addicted? Who's to say? What I tell people is, again, is this behavior serving you? A lot of men who are using porn compulsively struggle with erectile dysfunction, which doesn't do really well when they're trying to.
Oh shit!
Right? Doesn't work out that well. So it's like, is this serving you? You're living in a fantasy world, and you're not even able to have a connection with the person in front of you, and then you lie about it.
Yeah.
And you don't tell the truth. So I'm not going around telling everybody stop looking at porn. There are other people that's their message. What I'm saying is, what is this serving your relationship with your partner? Is it serving your relationship with you? Is it aligned with your value system? And you keep engaging in behaviors that are not aligned with your value system, and then you feel like crap. Like, what can we do to help you live in congruity with your value system and live the life that you want to live?
Why do you think, and I know you've mentioned it a few times, you don't like to use labels, but why would you say men are addicted to porn? What's the reason that most men would give you for visiting those websites in the first place?
So I talked about it a little bit earlier, like there are 6 attachment wounds that we can develop over life: loss, rejection, abandonment, betrayal, and abuse and neglect. And so a lot of men have these wounds. Well, porn will never reject you. Porn will never abandon you. Porn will always pay attention to you, even if it's just a fantasy. And so they're trying to get their needs met in a way that actually doesn't get their needs met, but they compulsively keep going back because in that moment it feels so good. But underneath it, they haven't dealt with the actual wounds and they haven't learned how to heal them, but they keep going there because for that moment, It's like an anesthesia that says, I don't have to deal with the pain of all these things for a moment.
Very interesting. So that's almost like you're saying that it's not sexual at all.
It's not sexual at all.
Really? So porn, in your opinion, porn has nothing to do with sex?
Nope.
It's really just a conduit to numb your brain.
Correct.
Wow, never thought about it this way. That's interesting. That's really actually interesting. Talk about pissing people off by saying that. I love it. So porn is a way to numb your brain instead of dealing with trauma.
Yep.
And that's what you see from the men you speak to.
Absolutely.
What happens when you tell them that? Is that something that's hard to accept?
No, they actually are grateful.
Yeah.
Because for so many years they felt like, well, I wasn't trying hard enough. I wasn't
literally.
Right.
It's because if you're not watching the video, he's actually using his forearm the same way as I would describe an erection. So sorry.
I didn't have enough willpower. I wasn't, and when I start saying that, like, dude, a lot of these guys, they started learning how to do this when they were 14, 15, sometimes younger. You didn't know any better.
Yep.
And so your brain found a solution to numb the pain. And now that you've figured that out, you can take responsibility and you can do something different. But they're like, whoa, I'm not a horrible human and I can do something about it.
Is it that common that people think they're just terrible human beings?
Well, dude, we are the most addicted society in the world. We use so many prescription drugs.
Oh yeah,
right. We're the most obese. We are the most medicated. We are the most addicted society of humans that's ever existed on the planet before. And why? Well, because we're all freaking wounded. And we don't know how to talk about that in a way that heals those wounds. We create divisions and we shame everybody. And so then we end up numbing.
Why? See, this is a part that I find to be absolutely astonishing because I agree with what you're saying, that we are the most addicted, distracted, drugged. We live in a society where food is so abundant that we are the main cause of our problems. Like most of the issues that we see, health issues, are not only curable, but they're preventable. and they're self-inflicted. That it just amazes me, why are people so traumatized, considering we live in a world of abundance. Like, if you at least recorded history, from what we know, we've never had, especially in North America, we've never had such abundance of everything.
Right.
What do we have to be traumatized about?
Well, you think about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and I think he has it kind of, if you flip it on its head, like the most basic needs are food and shelter. That's
like security.
Right.
Yep.
So that's been met in abundance, but the need to belong, the need for acceptance, those are not being met.
That's stage number 3.
Right. And so we don't feel like we belong. We don't feel like we matter. And so then that causes tremendous amount of pain. So I'm going to numb. So when we start to realize I am not alone, there are people in this life that resonate with me and me with them, and I can connect with them, I don't need to numb anymore.
See, I have a theory, and I'm interested because I'm just going to pull up the Maslow hierarchy of needs so that I can have it in front of me. So physiological, Jesus Christ, Nikki. Your physiological needs, your safety and security, your love and belonging, self-esteem, and self-actualization. If you look at your physical needs, the first layer, that we don't have to deal with today. Most of the people, at least in North America, and even if you live in the streets, you don't have any chances of you dying, or extremely, extremely low, almost impossible, because of the society that we have. Safety and security is the same thing. Most people don't have to worry about dying in the cold.
Right.
And then your third one, which is love and belonging, and that's what you're talking about. Do you not? But my theory is this: because we don't have to deal with 1 and 2, we don't develop our 3. Like it's like because we're born into 3, we never have to work for it. In the same way where if you look at fortunes, like extra wealth, if you will, they're destroyed within 3 generations. And that's what it takes. It's 2 generations detached from the person that built it. Money means nothing to you. Wouldn't you say that that's exactly what the problem is? Because we don't allow people to struggle anymore. We don't allow people to fail and learning what it is to fail. They don't learn that the world is a hard place to live. That the world is not rainbow and sunshine. Like I love to say that it will kick you in the teeth, bend you over, and fuck you raw. This is the way I see the world. And we're not giving people the tools that they need in order to deal with that truth. The world is as evil as it is good.
Right.
So do you think that because most of our basic needs are met, because the third one is the basic emotional need. But when you're in a survival mode, you don't have to think about that. You don't think about the emotional aspect because you have to survive. This is all that matters. Is not all how my feelings are going. Is really, fuck, if I don't eat, I'm dead.
Right.
So do you think that the lack of challenge is what's causing the love and belonging to be, that we're not equipped to deal with love and belonging?
I do. I grew up in a place where there was a lot of snow, and I've lived in Arizona for the last 23 years, and I love not having to shovel snow. I hate it. But one of the things that I've thought a lot about that, because it feels like there's a lot of apathy and a lot of not really caring about our neighbor.
Yep.
When I was growing up in the place where there was snow, I lived in a neighborhood where there was a whole lot of like elderly women who really their husbands had died or something. And so my dad would be out there shoveling their walks, making sure that their garbage was taken to the curb. And I learned that, right?
Yep.
And because of the hardship of weather, there was an opportunity to do something for somebody. And here there isn't. We get rain maybe twice a year. We get sunshine.
91% of the time, you guys have the highest level of sunshine in the world.
That's right.
91% of the days are sunny, and I can tell you we've been here for almost a month and a half. I think it rained 10 minutes. I'm not even sure that it rained. It might have been just dust.
And that was lucky because we don't usually. So we so I've noticed since I've lived here, there is an apathy. Nobody cares about helping somebody else. It's the very service-minded individual who does, and those are very rare. Most people just living their life, living their thing, and I was like, wow. So I would agree with you. When we deal with hardship of some kind, it makes us want to relieve the suffering of somebody else.
You build a community through suffering. You build a community because you realize that you have to be dependent on others. You know, there's a guy that I've met months ago, and I've used this example 100 times if it's not more, but he calls our society an aquarium. We are the little fishies in the aquarium, but we don't realize that there are people that built that aquarium, that maintain that aquarium, that are feeding us every day. You know, most people don't realize that your corner store or your grocery store is refilled every 48 hours. You are 72 hours away from having no food at the shelves at Walmart.
Absolutely.
But people don't know this because we're so used to having everything being taken care of for ourselves that we can't fucking think further than our nose, like I like to say. But to me, it's 100% attached to this is the fact that you don't suffer, that you don't realize how your neighbor might need you or that you might need your neighbor.
Right.
And
we don't realize how connected we actually are, right? I don't realize, I mean, we live in Yuma where there's a lot of farm stuff. So you watch how the lettuce is grown, and then you watch all the agricultural workers out there. And for me, I'm able to see that's how I get the lettuce that I buy at the grocery store, because those people out there, but most people don't know that. They don't know that there's truck drivers that deliver that everywhere, and they don't understand how connected we all are to each other.
And to me, this is, I love the Maslow pyramid of needs. I love the way he explained it, although a lot of people in psychology don't agree with it. They try to change it up, but I think he hit it right on the head. Like he hit the nail on the head. And to me, I was looking at it, I just did a blog about it last week, and this was my conclusion, is really just the fact that because all of our survival needs are met.
Yeah.
And because we never worked for them, we don't have that sense of belonging because we don't understand that everything's taken care of for us.
Right. I read an article once, the happiest people on the planet were this society in a third world country.
Yep.
They don't have all the things that we have, and they are the happiest people. And why? Because they help each other.
You know, the favorite psychologist on the planet, Mr. Jordan Peterson, and that's very sarcastic, says it all the time. He made me realize something years ago where he said that depression is just because you have too much time on your hands. People 60 years ago weren't depressed. They had to do shit. They had to do shit. Like you look at young men 100 years ago, boys were not allowed to just sit around and do nothing.
Right.
You had, if your family was farmers, guess what? You're fucking farming. If your dad was repaired shoes, guess what? You're fucking helping. Everywhere people had something to do, and now boys from a young age are allowed to do nothing. Then they have cell phone. Then they spend their time on their cell phones doing nothing. Then when they're old enough, they spend their time masturbating, playing video games. They don't have to contribute to society whatsoever because their first two needs are met.
Right.
But we don't give them See, what's the biggest problem in today's society? If you had to name one thing, what do you think is the biggest problem?
People don't know what their purpose is.
Why do you think that is? Because this is a symptom.
The not knowing what your purpose is a symptom?
Yep. This is just it's just a secondary effect of the actual root problem. In my opinion, at least. I could be wrong.
What do you think it is?
Lack of responsibility.
Yeah.
If you break it down to the most common denominator, and I've been thinking about this for years, and I came up with that conclusion maybe 3 weeks ago. The number one problem in today's society is a lack of responsibility, and that goes for men and women. Because this is all it is. If you look at all the problems that you see today, is because somebody's not ready to look at themselves in the mirror and say it's your fucking fault.
Well, I would go with responsibility as well, of saying my actions impact somebody else.
100%.
Right. Not that I'm responsible for how you respond to that, but my actions impact you and your actions impact me. So what do I want to do to take ownership of my part? And a lot of people don't take ownership.
And you know what? I was talking about this on a live yesterday where I asked the question to the two hosts that I do that live with, and I was asking them, I'm like, everybody's been cut off in traffic by somebody. Everybody that just driven a car knows what it is. But the question that I had for them is, do you think that person cared? Like, how long does it affect you when somebody cuts you off? Most people can get over it. Some people think about it all day. And I'm like, do you realize that person that cut you off probably didn't even realize he cut you off? He doesn't give a fuck about you. He doesn't give a fuck about the fact that he cut you off. But yet he's in your head the whole time when he never realized what he did. And let's go even further. Did that person even realize that he was doing it? Or is he an asshole? I like to believe that people are not asshole by nature. They just don't care.
Now, apathy again, right?
Yeah. And why don't they care? Because they don't own the responsibility that their actions impact others. Yep. That's why I say that responsibility, whatever it is, look at it. It's always a lack of responsibility is the problem for every single issue that we have in our society today. We will not own to our own shit.
No, but we sure like to blame everyone.
Again, lack of responsibility.
Right.
It's a lot easier to blame others than to say, you know what, it's your fault.
That's right.
I was having this, there's this girl I've known forever. This happened a couple of days ago. I've known her since I'm 14 years old. And about 10 years ago, she's asked me to be the godfather of her daughter. And even 10 years ago, I knew that my life was already on the path of being extraordinary. And now it's just more extraordinary, and it will continue to be there. But she was still at the same place as she was as a teenager. Never moved outside of her town. Always hangs out with the same people. And that was 10 years ago. So I was 30-ish years old. So when she asked me that, I'm like, you know what? God forbid something happens to your daughter. That's in my head. I never said that to her. But I'm like, God forbid something happens to your daughter. But if something does happen, I'll give your daughter an extraordinary life. So you know what? I knew even 10 years ago that we wouldn't be friends forever. But at least in my head, I was like, you know what? I'll do that for you. Out of respect, you know what? Sure. She came back to me, told me that I couldn't be the godfather of her daughter because she had fallen in love with me, or she's always loved me. And either way, like a bunch of bullshit. And this week she reached out to me. She saw a post where I've been told for a very long time that I'm shallow, that I'm very superficial when it comes to women, because I will not date a woman that's fat. And then I try to explain to people, I'm like, listen, it says a lot about your state of mind. If you allow yourself to be obese, if you allow yourself if you treat your car better than you do yourself, that tells me you don't have a lot of self-love. Sure, we fall off the wagon. We're not careful sometimes and shit happens. I get it. But if that's how you are, you have to check yourself in the mirror and say, and to me, it says a lot. I'm not saying that because you're in shape, you're good mentally. That's not what I'm saying at all. But I can tell you that if you're not, I guarantee you that you're not well in your head. This is an ultimate. If you allow this to happen to yourself, you know that you don't have the highest value of yourself. This is why I don't date fat chicks. Because it represents, plus I'm at the gym 5-6 times a week, 2 hours a day. I eat extremely well. I can't resonate with somebody that's always eating garbage, right? So that same girl commented, she's been obese since I've known her, like for at least 25 years now. And she was giving excuses upon excuse. Oh, it's society. I'm like, yeah, okay. So McDonald's made you fat. The fork's responsible for you being obese. Yeah, I get it. Yeah. Keep on blaming other people. But this is how people go throughout their life. Like, now, because I told her that, she felt the need to contact me and she wanted to have a conversation with me about what happened 10 years ago. I'm like, you know what? I don't care. Like, you and I are not really friends. I'll always have respect for you because you were part of my life at that point. But today I'm like, why? Why would I waste my time talk to you? Like, you haven't gone over, like, quite frankly, I haven't thought about this in fucking years. You're telling me this. We haven't spoken in years. I don't care. Like, it's a decision you took. Live with the consequences. And I don't feel the need to talk about it because it's part of my past. I like to live my present and my future. But do you see that a lot in the people you deal with, that they live in the past? Because this is one of the things one of the side effects of not owning to your shit. You live in the past.
Yeah. And it makes sense because a lot of bad crap has happened in our lives. When I talk about attachment wounds, what I'm really, really worried about is that people are going to latch onto those and use those as an excuse. And I say, dude, once you figured it out, you have ownership now to do something different. Yes, it's impacted the way you've made choices. Yes, it's impacted the way that you've had relationships. But now that you know, you are responsible for doing something about that. And you're worthy enough to be able to do that. And a lot of people doubt that. They don't believe they're worthy enough. And I can tell that for myself. There was a long time I hated myself. And I've been working on loving myself more and taking better care of my body than I've ever done before. And it's because I finally believed I'm worthy of that. Not because somebody told me I had to, but because I want to.
So if we've been going at it for an hour and 10 minutes, give or take, we'll close it off, but I'd like you to get the opportunity to, if there's something you want to tell men out there, if there's resources that they can use, or where can they find you? Like, if you want to, just take the time that you need to talk to the men that are out there that might need to hear something from you.
Wow, I'm getting emotional all of a sudden. First of all, that you really do matter, that you have power in yourself. That's profound. And when people try to diminish that or beat the shit out of you, it makes me sad, because we are enough and we can make a difference. So hopefully you can believe that. You can find me at findingpeaceconsulting.com. If you go there, there's a free 5-day challenge that you can sign up for. Every day for 5 days, you get an email from me that talks about what's going on in our life and why we do what we do and how we can change that. So I'd love to have you look at that. And I'm going to be having an empathy retreat for men that's happening in June in Phoenix, specifically for men, to help them learn how to use that martial art part of ourselves where we can master our emotion and be grounded even when there's stuff, and use that as a way of connecting and using our power for influence. So thanks for that opportunity to share that.
Send me the information. I'll post it. I'll reshare that information because I strongly, strongly believe in retreats. I've had the chance to do some of them, and they're extraordinary. Just being surrounded by other great men is a great thing.
Yeah.
On that note, I want to be grateful for every single one of you out there that listened to this, that watched it, that watched the video. And I want you to remember that the world is changed one man at a time, and that it takes one man to change the world. Peace.
You've been listening to the Nico Lagan Show. Nico has been involved in the martial arts for 20 years. He's a Muay Thai coach, focus coach, podcaster, and sought-after public speaker. We hope you've enjoyed the show, and we hope you've gotten some useful and practical information. We'll be back soon, but in the meantime, find us on Facebook and Instagram at Coach Nico Lagan, and on YouTube at The Nico Lagan Show. See you next time.